Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Turek. Turek is the Director of North America at GoCardless with overall responsibility for the sales and growth of U.S. business. He has more than 15 years experience in sales and leadership roles in IT and SaaS businesses, including Microsoft, Salesforce, and IBM'er. Louis began his career with IBM, graduating top of the class in the IBM Global Sales School. In 2016, he launched IBM'er for Business in the UK, building the go-to-market and commercial strategies, hiring and leading the team, and closing the first contracts with major clients. Since then, he has held leadership positions at a number of startups, including Bazaarvoice and Permutive. Well, good afternoon, Louis. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. Very good of you to have me.
Absolutely. This is amazing. And, Louis, we were just catching up here before we started with the podcast I've traversed the globe, 35 countries, and I spent a lot of my time, I should say virtually, podcasting in London and the UK. But the fact that you're one of those kind of like transplants, right? You're coming from the UK over to the United States. I know you're spending your time back and forth, but that's amazing. And we're so glad to have you here in the States. So, Louis, let's jump right into the questions here and talk a little bit about your career and what you're doing at GoCardless. So let's talk about your career in tech. You've been a director, an executive, and now you're the director of North America sales at GoCardless. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
Absolutely. And I think the overarching and most important thing that I run by is ensuring that I'm having fun at work. We're not around long enough to not enjoy what we do. I started my career at IBM as a graduate in the UK. IBM was a fantastic sounding board, 400,000 employees, and I learned my sales skills. I learned internal politics. I learned how to get stuff done in a large organization. I left one large organization to move to a much smaller organization called Microsoft. It was much smaller to me. It was 100,000 people, and I had 3 great years at Microsoft in the UK. And then throughout my career, moving from Salesforce to Bazaarvoice to IBM'er and then back to Bazaarvoice again, my career trajectory has taken me from 400,000 to 100,000 to now at GoCardless today with about 700 people. And for me, that's the sweet spot for what inspires me at work, the company size, and our growth opportunities.
I love that story. You kind of started out with the big fish and you slowly scaled down, but still that experience is amazing. Learning how to navigate just a corporation like that and some of the politics and the different levels of structure within an organization that large. So thank you for sharing that. And so
my pleasure.
Go ahead.
I was just going to add one thing there, Brian, which was I think the reason that I realized that a smaller company is for me is in a large organization, you're a very small cog in a huge wheel. Whereas in a smaller organization, in a startup, in a sub 1,000 person company, the work that you do every day, is making a fundamental difference to the results and the direction of the company. And that really excites me.
I would certainly agree. Like you, I've my career has traversed over a very large 100,000 plus companies to, less than 1,000. So I certainly agree with you on that. So Louis, let's talk a little bit about the pandemic, right? We've all had to make these incredible shifts and sacrifices during the lockdown. What are your plans to adjust and continue for business growth going forward?
Well, I think what's interesting is companies who have had a mindset of everyone must be in the office 5 days a week, 9 till 5, are the ones who have really struggled with the pandemic shift. At GoCardless, we're very fortunate. We have offices in London, San Francisco, New York, Paris, Melbourne, and Munich. But we've never had the requirement that we expect employees in all day, every day. Everybody can work from home using our technology stack. And so our offices become more of a destination where you want to come in and meet up with colleagues. But fundamentally, the pandemic has not changed our business. If anything, the pandemic has grown our business as more people are shopping online, as more businesses are buying from other businesses. So from a cultural shift, it hasn't changed so much. What it has done and what our plans have been is to really keep employees engaged as very best as we can. Basic things like Zoom calls on a Monday morning and a Friday afternoon to check in on everyone, to be a team, to sending surprise packages to delight and excite our employees. There are a few things better on a cold, dark Tuesday afternoon than being sent a slice of cake in the mail. Everybody likes a slice of cake. And those ways of just delighting your employees, it really builds a bond.
I love that because you're right. And we've all had those challenges of having your staff work remote. And sometimes it might be just across the street, but it's still remote and it's different to engage staff. So I love the stories that you're sharing, and cake's always great. Love that. Yeah. So Louis, you're obviously leveraging some new and emerging technologies within your business, right? Is there something you might be able to share with us today?
So I saw the question in advance, Brian, and I wanted to think a little bit about what are some of the tools that I'm using and what are some of the tools that my teams and my colleagues are using, in addition to, obviously, what is GoCardless as a company using. From a personal perspective, I'm a huge fan of Gong, Gong.io. I've used it at Bazaar Voice. I've used it again here at GoCardless. And it's a great way that I can coach employees, coach sellers, coach SDRs, listen to calls. They can listen to each other's calls. Peers can give ideas to other colleagues. In case folks aren't aware, Gong is a call recording piece of software, and allows me at a very high level to see a full dictation of the conversation, but also the topics that are being discussed. And again, ever more so with a pandemic where everybody's working from home, my job as a leader isn't to manage people. It isn't to lead people. It's to coach people. And if I'm not aware of what they're doing and how they're managing their calls, it becomes so much harder to coach people. So I'm a huge fan of Gong, and that has been very successful for us as a business. Another tool that our sellers and our SDRs use is SalesLoft. It's amazing sitting down with an SDR and watching how they use SalesLoft to tell them what they should be doing, to give them the clues. They've sent three prospecting emails to a prospect from a target company we're trying to go after. And then she opens the email, and then that's when the SDR gets on the phone to make that call. Really clever technology. And then finally, like every company, we use Zoom. We maybe overuse Zoom a little bit, but Zoom has really enabled us to feel that we're part of a team, even when we're all remote. And I think we all agree we need to feel part of a team when we're remote.
Absolutely. And you're right. I think, again, pretty common. We've talked about this to hundreds of guests on the show about how innovation has really just accelerated through this pandemic. And we're starting, and maybe, some of in some of the cases, the technology was there. It just was kind of maybe sitting on a shelf with some dust on it, right? But in either case, we've seen a mass acceleration around digital and business innovation just in the last 18 months. So thank you for sharing your portion of it with GoCardless. And last question, Louis, our audience wants to know a little bit more about you. Could you share something from your career experience that would be helpful for those looking to grow their career in tech or leadership?
I can. And my biggest learning from my career so far and what's got me to GoCardless is you very rarely work for a company. You work for the people that are in that company. And two things happen when you take that approach. One, you follow good people, and they want to keep you wherever they may go. So don't ever burn bridges. But secondly, and perhaps more importantly, I very often think to myself, what would Chris do? Chris was one of my managers at Bazaar Voice, and then a director at Bazaar Voice, and now he's become a good friend of mine. And when I'm not sure what to do, when a problem comes to my desk, when we have an issue, whether it be with customers, whether it be with people, whether it be with a company policy, sometimes I know what to do, Brian, and sometimes I don't. And if I don't, then I think to myself, what would Chris do? And sometimes I'll text Chris and ask him, what would he do? And we'll talk through it. But very often I can just think of an example of where he did something and I want to aspire from him as a mentor. I want to be like him. And that simple approach is very valuable. The second key thing I would say, Brian, and this is the most important thing maybe that I'll share with you today. We work in a fintech environment. We work in software sales. We work in tech leadership. We are so lucky that we are not an intensive care doctor. Because if we make a mistake, Brian, it's okay. There's no life-changing or life-ending even issue. If we make a mistake, maybe we lose a deal. Maybe a customer gets upset with us. Maybe our company loses a little bit of money. But nobody has a life-changing incident. So always remember that when you're having a really bad day and you're sitting on Zoom and 10 people are slacking you and colleagues are saying that everything is going to go wrong, we remember that we are so lucky not to be intensive care doctors, and we respect hugely what they do.
You're absolutely right. And I've actually had the opportunity to work in healthcare and public sector, public safety, and to see some of that. And there is a big difference. So, we all should be grateful in what we do, because, on the other side of the coin, it could be a lot more difficult, more challenging. So thanks for sharing, Louis. And Louis, I just want to let you know, today it was a pleasure having you on, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Brian, a pleasure talking to you. And I hope that we get the chance to do something like this again very soon.
Absolutely. Bye for now.